Jeff Hardy and the Victory Road Disaster. Jeff Hardy is beloved for his daredevil style and fearless performances, but his battles with addiction led to one of the most unprofessional moments ever seen in a wrestling ring. At TNA Victory Road 2011, Hardy was scheduled to face Sting in the main event, a dream match on paper. But when Hardy walked through the curtain, it was obvious something was wrong. He was intoxicated and under the influence, stumbling during his entrance and not entirely all present. The crowd went from cheering to exchanging worried glances. They could see it, Sting could see it, and even the commentary team was caught off guard. Eric Bischoff took stock and came to the ring prior to the bell to spin a storyline, but quietly let Sting know to pin Jeff as soon as possible. The match was a nightmare. Hardy wasn't fit to compete, and Sting, ever the professional, had to improvise to end things before someone got seriously hurt. Within a minute, Sting hit his finisher, pinned Hardy, and visibly shouted to the fans, "I agree," when they booed the fiasco. It wasn't the first time Jeff had shown up impaired, but this was the most public and damaging example. Hardy was sent home immediately and later entered rehab, but the damage to his reputation was massive. It's one of the clearest examples that no matter how talented you are, showing up under the influence doesn't just ruin your career, it puts your opponent and the entire show at risk. Mr. Perfect and the Laxative prank on Yokozuna. Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, was one of the most talented wrestlers of his generation. But he also had a mischievous side that sometimes went way too far. One of his most infamous locker room pranks involved none other than the massive Yokozuna. The story goes that Hennig, on a flight back from Japan, offered Yokozuna some of his chocolate, although this was actually chocolate laxative, and Yoko, being Yoko, sought more and more of it. Curt was secretly feeding him laxatives. Now, Yokozuna was a 600-pound guy, so when he leapt up mid-flight, the plane nearly offset. He pleaded with the stewardesses for assistance as he couldn't fit in the tiny airplane toilets. They took him to the back of the plane and covered him with a blanket while he liquidated the assets onto some newspaper. The crew had never felt turbulence like it. Hennig had a reputation for being the ultimate ribber, always pulling pranks to entertain himself and others backstage. While we don't know of any official punishment for the stunt, there have been unconfirmed reports of fines being handed down. JBL and the bullying backstage. John Bradshaw Layfield had a reputation in the ring as a tough Texan, but behind the curtain, many wrestlers knew him for something else: bullying. He cultivated an aura of toughness that often crossed into intimidation, the kind that made newer talent quietly rehearse apologies. Stories of JBL's behavior have circulated for years, and several incidents stand out as prime examples of unprofessional conduct that affected the locker room. Many of the incidents came during Wrestler's Court, a backstage tradition where wrestlers would rib or punish each other. Sometimes, JBL treated it less like a rite of passage and more like a high-stakes roast, where he kept the mic for himself. He once reportedly filled another wrestler's bag with soap after an argument and bullied younger stars in order to break them down. His antics often went too far. They became targeted acts meant to humiliate and establish dominance. Another well-known case happened on the flight back from WWE's Tribute to the Troops tour in 2008, where JBL had allegedly been hazing announcer Joey Styles non-stop. The bullying became so unbearable that Styles finally snapped, got into a tussle, and punched JBL in the face. There are varying stories about the actual incident. Did JBL pour a drink over Styles? Did Styles really knock him out or not? However, this particular incident got praise for Styles by many wrestlers for standing up to him, and JBL's reputation took a hit. WWE rarely disciplined JBL publicly, likely because he was a veteran with strong ties to management. But his legacy is permanently tied to these stories, and there are many. Alicia Fox and the Drunken match. Alicia Fox had a long career in WWE, but one of the most infamous moments tied to her name didn't happen during a storyline. It happened in real life. In 2019, at a live event, Alicia Fox reportedly showed up to wrestle while intoxicated. Fans in attendance noticed something was off almost immediately. Her timing in the ring was erratic, her moves were sloppy, and she looked visibly out of control. Wrestling might be scripted, but no one plans for an opponent completely forgetting the play. Things like this can come across as embarrassing, but it's also dangerous. Wrestling requires trust, precision, and safety between performers. The story got even messier behind the scenes. Arn Anderson, a respected producer and agent for WWE, was allegedly the one who cleared Alicia to wrestle that night. When word got back to management that she had been drinking before going on, Anderson ended up being fired from the company. Alicia herself wasn't publicly punished, but her reputation took a massive hit. Some reports suggest Fox was struggling with personal issues and substance problems around that time. Instead of WWE disciplining her directly, she was offered help. In fact, after the incident, she quietly stepped away from the company, eventually confirming that she sought treatment and was working on her recovery. The incident unfolded in front of fans during a live match and showed just how risky things can get when real-life struggles spill into the ring, and how quickly one bad night can change careers behind the curtain. Michael P.S. Hayes and the controversial remarks. Michael P.S. Hayes is a Hall of Famer, known for his charisma and creativity, but one of the darkest stains on his career came from a backstage incident with Mark Henry. In 2008, during the WrestleMania 24 weekend festivities, Hayes was reportedly drinking heavily and made a racist remark directly to Henry, one of WWE's longest tenured stars. According to multiple accounts, Hayes told Henry he was more of an N-word than he was, an ugly comment that instantly set off alarms in the locker room. The fallout was immediate. Mark Henry didn't let it slide. He went straight to management and made it clear he wouldn't tolerate that kind of disrespect. With WWE under pressure to show it took racism seriously, Hayes was suspended indefinitely from his role as head of talent relations. The suspension sent shockwaves through the company, since Hayes had been considered an untouchable figure behind the scenes. The locker room talk moved faster than rumors about who's turning heel. Hayes had a reputation for being outspoken and brash, especially when alcohol was involved. But this crossed a line that couldn't be defended. The incident forced WWE to confront behavior that in earlier eras might have been swept under the rug. Hayes eventually returned to his role after sensitivity training, but the scandal stuck. For many, it remains a reminder of how toxic comments can not only fracture relationships, but also derail careers. Even legends aren't immune when they let arrogance and alcohol fuel unprofessional conduct. Randy Orton, Firecrackers, and the bag incident. Randy Orton may now be seen as a locker room leader, but his early years were filled with chaos. Two stories in particular showed just how unprofessional and downright wild he could be behind the scenes. First, the Firecrackers. Randy thought it would be a good idea to shoot them at Maria Kanellis whilst on the road. Not just on the road, but actually from his car at the car she was in, along with Umaga and Carlito. Maria confirmed she actually feared for her life at the time. Then there's the infamous toilet in the bag story. According to multiple reports from his early 2000s run, Orton once defecated in a fellow wrestler's gym bag as a prank. However, this is disputed, and the alternative story goes that it was just tanning lotion and baby oil. Truth aside, the story hung around. In wrestling, a prank plus time equals folklore. And still, it reinforced Orton's reputation as a young star who thought he was untouchable. Not much was done about the incidents at the time. Orton was considered one of the company's future cornerstones, and while he was chewed out by veterans and management, he avoided serious punishment. He was often treated like a future asset to be protected, rather than a problem to be fixed, which tells you a lot about priorities at the time. Over the years, though, Orton matured, and eventually grew past these antics, becoming one of the most respected veterans in WWE. JBL brutalizes the Blue Meanie. At ECW One Night Stand 2005, fans expected chaos. The event was a throwback to the wild, hardcore days of Extreme Championship Wrestling. But one moment stood out, not because it was scripted, but because it was real. During the big closing brawl, John Bradshaw Layfield went after the Blue Meanie in a way that shocked everyone. Instead of working safely, JBL targeted Meanie and unloaded with stiff, legitimate punches to his face. He busted him open, leaving Meanie bloodied in front of a stunned live crowd. It was a case of a veteran using the chaos of the moment to settle a grudge. Reports later revealed that JBL disliked Meanie due to comments he'd made online about his reputation as a bully. When the opportunity presented itself, he took matters into his own hands. JBL had the reputation of a locker room enforcer and didn't take kindly to being criticized publicly. But taking out real frustrations during a live broadcast was about as unprofessional as it gets. After the incident, there was major heat backstage. Meanie threatened legal action, and WWE scrambled to smooth things over. They even booked a short feud between JBL and Blue Meanie on SmackDown as a way to turn the controversy into a storyline, with Meanie finally getting some measure of revenge. And by that, we don't mean just the win. We mean JBL taking quite a forcible chair shot to the head by Meanie's BWO partner, Steve Richards. You could see the anger behind the throw. The incident remains a black mark on JBL's career, a reminder that in wrestling, there's a line between being stiff in the ring and using it as an excuse to assault someone for real. Alberto Del Rio and the racism controversy. Alberto Del Rio's time in WWE was filled with highs and lows, but one of the biggest scandals came in 2014, when racism behind the scenes led to him being suspended. The story goes that WWE social media manager Cody Barbieri allegedly made a racist joke during a backstage interaction. Del Rio didn't take it lightly. Instead, he confronted him and reportedly slapped him in the face with some force. WWE quickly announced that Del Rio had been released for unprofessional conduct. But fans quickly began asking questions. Why was Del Rio punished for reacting, while the racist remark itself went unaddressed? Del Rio has since publicly stated that racism was a problem in WWE and that he wouldn't tolerate being disrespected. Not long after the incident, WWE posted a job vacancy for a new social media manager, and Cody went into business as a consultant, leading to rumors that he too had been pushed, possibly instigated from fan and media backlash, although this has never publicly been confirmed. Del Rio highlighted a culture that many felt needed to change. His actions cost him his job, but they also sparked conversation among fans and wrestlers about accountability behind the curtain. Eventually, he returned to the company years later, but the incident forever stained his relationship with WWE management. Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch, when friendship turned hostile. Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch were once close friends, but their relationship took a sharp turn, and it boiled over into a heated backstage confrontation between the two. The breaking point came in late 2021 during a segment on SmackDown known as the Title Exchange. The idea was Charlotte, the Raw Women's Champion, and Becky, the SmackDown Women's Champion, were supposed to trade belts after being drafted to opposite brands. But Charlotte reportedly didn't like how the segment was written, as she thought it made her look weak. So, when the cameras were rolling, she went off script, literally dropping the title on the mat instead of handing it over. Becky then reciprocated by throwing her belt at Charlotte. You could just sense the producers wincing backstage. Becky, who prides herself on professionalism, was furious. The segment looked awkward on live TV, and word quickly spread that the tension backstage was explosive. According to multiple reports, Charlotte and Becky had a heated confrontation as soon as they got behind the curtain, with security and officials stepping in before things escalated further. By all accounts, the verbal sparring backstage had more intensity than most main events. Ego and pride played huge roles. Both women see themselves as the top star in WWE's women's division, and when creative decisions blur that line, tempers flare. Charlotte felt her status was being diminished, while Becky felt Charlotte disrespected her and the business by going off script. WWE didn't suspend Charlotte, but the incident strained her relationship with both Becky and management. For fans, it gave their real-life rivalry an edge that no storyline could ever create. Shelton Benjamin's mother and the sexual harassment claim. Shelton Benjamin is remembered as one of WWE's most gifted athletes. But during his rise in the mid-2000s, controversy struck, not because of something he did, but because of what his mother alleged. Around the time WWE was running a storyline where Benjamin's mama, played by actress Thea Vidal, would be introduced to motivate him. Thea claimed she had been sexually harassed by a WWE employee. She alleged that while visiting backstage, she was subjected to inappropriate comments and unwanted advances almost daily, including an employee entering her dressing room with his clothesline out. The situation caused a stir because it went beyond typical wrestling drama and directly called into question WWE's workplace environment. WWE never publicly admitted wrongdoing in the matter, but insiders say the claims were taken seriously behind closed doors. The company distanced itself from the situation, and it quietly disappeared from headlines. Shelton himself never publicly addressed it in depth, likely in an effort to protect his career. These incidents show just how reckless some WWE stars could be. But maybe we've only scratched the surface. What stories have you heard or seen yourself? Drop a comment below. Let's see who's got the most shocking.